Thank you for joining us for the B2B Marketplaces Roundtable. With us today, we have Tom McFadyen, the President and CEO of McFadyen Digital, Tzipi Avioz, EVP of Customer Success at Mirakl, and Shannon, Hane, Director of Product Marketing from Adobe. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. So we are doing this on the heels of a very good session. It was an ABB case study on their marketplace or Emart marketplace, and Samer, our good friend, was doing the presentation there. And so, in that vein, what do you think makes the marketplace model of e-commerce attractive to an e-commerce company like ABB? And Tzipi, why don't we start with you?
Great, thank you, Tom, and I totally agree. I think it was an outstanding presentation by Samer, so thank you for that. I think the marketplace model is attractive to companies like ABB because it really helps them grow the relationship with their customers and sellers, and they're getting access to data and they can grow their brands. So we heard Samer explaining how important the customer is for them and how they want to broaden the relationship with their customers. And the best way for them to do it was by working with their sellers and working with them together in different areas and getting more data to really help them and support them in everything that they needed. The other two really important points that we are extremely passionate from a marketplace perspective is one, scalability and the agility. And definitely to companies like ABB, and Samer mentioned it as well, the ability for them to offer more products and more offers, which means more sales for them quite fast, is really important. And for them doing it in a very agile way is a key strength. And the scalability, again, their ability to launch into new countries extremely fast globally is something that before was extremely difficult for them. And that's definitely the marketplace business model allowing them to do.
Thanks. I'd add one point to that as well, the diversification of products. So a company like ABB with many different divisions and product lines, and also enabling third-party sellers from a very diversified product offering into markets like Brazil and India, where there is not the same availability of product and avenues for purchasing. ABB really can differentiate against the competition with that broad product line from ABB and from third-party sellers.
Yeah.
I think also they have an incredible ability to really control their brand, right? And through this experience that they're creating through the marketplace, yet still completely rely on their partners, their selling partners, to deliver on that fulfillment. And so it's sort of the best of both worlds, right? They can tell their own story, but then they can rely on their partners to really make sure that they have that kind of service and support that their end customer is looking for.
Yeah, I definitely agree on growing their own story and really bringing their brands to their customers. I think is key.
Oh, great points. And building on that, right? One of the unique parts about speaking of controlling your brand, right? That flows perfectly into our next point here. Emart, the ABB Emart, is somewhat unique in that they're offering products to both business buyers and consumers, and with many manufacturers looking to sell direct without upsetting their distributors and their distribution network, their other partners. How can that be accomplished using a marketplace model where, as an advantage over traditional e-commerce? And Tom, let's go with you first on this one.
Well, let's start with e-commerce, which has been really morphing between B2C and B2B capabilities over the past decade, let's say, as more millennials become B2B buyers at enterprises. So we're seeing a lot of those, the same user experience, customer experience, capabilities going bi-directionally. So that B2C UX is being added into the B2B, legacy kind of boring green screen ERP interface that there used to be. And some of the B2B capabilities like multiple ship-to addresses, multiple payment types, configurable products, we're seeing that in the B2C side. So it's a general trend that's happening both on commerce and marketplaces. But in the specific case of ABB, we see the benefit of being able to sell to both and diversifying their opportunity to sell, where both we see brands going D2C or direct to consumer and retailers starting to make their own private label. So you also that morphing of direct-to-consumer happening from brands, not only physical goods manufacturers like maybe, but also CPG, food, and other items selling direct-to-consumer. Also, retailers, brokers, other customer-facing B2B organizations starting to private label or white label goods under their own brand. So there's a lot of morphing happening between both channels, both avenues there. But the nice thing about marketplaces as well, you can offer that procurement sourcing of goods for an organization that wants to buy as a B2B buyer, advanced capabilities of organizational modeling, approval workflows, different payment types within departments, and so forth. So certainly there's a lot of benefit both on B2C and B2B with this solution.
Great, thanks, Tom. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Tom. I think the customer journey is really important. It's definitely started more from the B2C, but the procurement teams and the expectation is there across the board. We definitely see it with Amazon business as well. So it's really something that bringing that flexibility and leveraging technology with that capability of user experience and seller experience are key for them to grow their business.
Great point. Great point. And to layer onto that a little bit more, I always love the Swarovski story of the branded ingredient going with their, they don't sell directly to consumer, but they're in a lot of other goods, right? So they launched that marketplace. Of course, it's Mirakl powered, and brought all of those together under one customer experience that they themselves own. And that's a benefit to both the people that are including their ingredient in there and to themselves and their own brand, of course. So there's just so many different angles that you can leverage an online marketplace here for B2B. And speaking of that enablement, right? Technology plays a major factor in enabling the online marketplace functionality. And, we were just talking about the ABB site, and like many other large organizations, which are on the Magento stack, which is the e-commerce platform here for ABB, with the Mirakl Marketplace platform, which is the enterprise marketplace platform layer. And we also see other large companies like AB InBev leveraging this stack, UNFI is leveraging this stack. What do you think makes this combination such a winner for large B2B companies? Shannon, why don't you take this one?
Sure. I think there are a lot of reasons, but one of the big ones is that there is the seamless integration that exists between Magento and Mirakl. So Mirakl has an extension that's expressly built for Magento, which makes it much faster and easier to get that marketplace up and running. And I think that's why we have so many, combined customers where we're really serving their marketplace needs. The other thing to bring up is that Magento is just a great foundation for building your marketplace, right? You're going to get, all of those key capabilities you need to create that great buying experience, as well as all the account management things that you might need with a B2B buyer. So great content management tools, merchandising capabilities. On the account management side, those B2B customers can go in and see all of their order history. They can set up multiple buyers and approval workflows, right? And then, as you guys touched on before, Magento really is designed to be a scalable and global platform. So ABB having, multiple countries up with marketplaces, that is like a standard use case for us, and we're really, well adapted to that. And then combine that with Magento just being really customizable. I think it's a great fit with, especially with B2B companies that often have complex, business requirements. It can really be shaped around their requirements rather than having to kind of, force a business into an existing system.
Good points. Anybody else want to add on to that?
Well, we really like the Magento commerce platform for a variety of the same reasons that Shannon mentioned, and just from about almost a quarter century of experience implementing e-commerce from the very early days of SSL and the commerce. We find that it's extensible yet also scalable, but not prohibitively complex. So you see today a wide spectrum of pure SaaS service e-commerce engine, Shopify, which are easy to do with small sites, but not very extensible or customizable when you have things like Marketplace. Then you see some of the big monolithic stacks of the days of yesteryear, and or you see the collection of APIs that require a lot of effort. Whereas Magento, I think, has a combination of great out-of-the-box functionality for both B2C and B2B in one platform, as well as the ability to do some very customizable extensions and very unique experiences. Could be, for example, the PWA progressive web app front-end. Magento have that built in. So we really like it as a commerce platform, and Mirakl is really the leading enterprise class, almost the only one in its class. Market platform, and Tzipi probably tell us more about that. Representative of Mirakl.
Yeah, so I totally agree. First, in terms of the ease of integration between Magento and Mirakl, and of course with the experience of McFadyen, but part of what we can see is the leverage of the richness of the platform, the Mirakl platform, to leverage with a lot of B2B requirements and that ability to scale to each geography without major changes. So I think, again, Sama pointed out, 5 months go live within Brazil, then 3 months go live within India, and we're all working on the next one, so it's definitely going to be much faster. So it is something that really helpful for them to scale, and it's a win-win combination.
And we have great partners too.
Well, thanks for that.
To add on to my comment about scalability, in Mirakl, we've implemented 4 or 5 Fortune 500 projects with Mirakl. So it scales to the $20 billion, $50 billion size company. But we've also done half a dozen projects for mid-sized companies as well. So it's not just for the big guys, it's also a mid-market solution. So you scale up and down depending on the size of the company.
That's a good point.
That's a good point, because we also are seeing just a huge amount of interest in marketplaces at both that mid-market and enterprise level. So this is definitely a solution that's, the demand for it is growing, and it's great that we have, a pre-existing integration, and so it's ready to go for those customers who want to test out this new model.
Yeah, and we definitely launched, COVID-19, Stop COVID-19 sites in France within 48 hours with Magento as well. So it's definitely something that is core even to very small companies to start.
And that's a good transition into our next topic, which is the global pandemic and how that has just made 2020 pretty crazy for businesses of all ilk, but especially has resulted in a lot of innovation compression within B2B. And that's because all of the sudden the C-suites are coming to the e-commerce folks and the IT folks and saying, hey, our sales reps can't get out into the field anymore. We can't get out and press the flesh with our customers and look them in the eye, take their order. We're not, there aren't trade shows out there. There just isn't the opportunity right now in this weird environment to be, physically there with people like we normally are. So there's a directive now, how can we push as much volume as possible through our e-commerce sites, if they even have an e-commerce site? Like part of the session, the ABB session, when Andy was talking to some other folks, was that the B2B, only 50% of B2B transactions are electronic. I mean, and that doesn't count faxes, that doesn't count phone orders, obviously. So now things that were 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, are being put into right now. So given this innovation compression, I would like each of you to give us your one piece of advice for manufacturers and distributors with that lens of digital commerce innovation and prioritization. And let's start with Shannon, then we'll go to Tom, then we'll go to Tzipi. So Shannon, what would your one piece of advice be for these folks to deal with this innovation compression and this sudden demand?
Yeah, sure. It's a real challenge. I come from a product marketing background, and so I always I like to look to the customer as my kind of guiding light when I think about where to go. And so right now, so many manufacturers are they're having to either get customers who are offline, online. They're maybe getting a whole new set of customers because they've had to switch their business, or now everyone needs personal protective gear and they happen to sell that, right? So I think that being really crystal clear on your customers, their needs, and where are their friction points, right, in that buying process, and go after those big, like the big points of friction as the first step, and really kind of solve some of those issues, because that'll allow them to run more efficiently, get their volume up, get people, encouraged to use this new channel. And so I would kind of spend some time really mapping that out as a step one, and then that gives you kind of the ammo you need to request resources or identify your top priorities and just go after those and just do an iterative process there.
Great answer, and great points. Tom, how about you? What would your piece of advice be?
Maybe I'll look at it from a different angle, which is from the pandemic, about the business resiliency and diversification. So, for example, we have one B2B client that does $200 million, about $250 million a year online of B2B orders. And their central distribution center in California got shut down for a few months because of the pandemic. Essentially, they were losing tens of millions of dollars of orders per month because they just couldn't fill anything. Their staff couldn't go into the DC distribution center. Versus marketplaces add that level of resiliency to your supply chain. When you have dozens, hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of third-party sellers that are supplying your customers, and they can ship from multiple geographies, multiple inventories, you have a much more resilient supply chain. A great example of that in the market was early demand for masks. Etsy, the marketplace, had lots and lots of individuals creating masks and selling them to the public when the big traditional distributors couldn't get masks. That's an example of resiliency of the supply chain in a pandemic or other challenges.
That's a great point.
And Tzipi, how about you? What would your piece of advice be?
I love the first two, so I won't reuse them. But for me, it's more the time is now for these B2B companies. You don't want to have another event like what happened at the beginning of the year and not to be ready. And the customers are definitely moving towards these channels and the digital transformation. So definitely I would recommend to, come and talk to us, talk to the experts, talk to the right platforms, and really invest in that digital transformation of your business. Your customers expect that, and definitely your sales force as well. They would love to be trained and be more digital ready and digital navy. And I think it's really important.
All great points. Well, that brings us to the end of our roundtable here. And before we go, I did want to congratulate Tzipi and Mirakl on the funding raise. That $300 million raise is amazing news. Congratulations on the unicorn valuation. We're very happy to be a Mirakl partner. We're very happy to be an Adobe partner. This stack has served our customers very, very well. And we appreciate the partnership. We appreciate your time today. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.